USS Independence departed San Diego for a Western Pacific Indian Ocean deployment in the early morning hours on June 23, 1990. Shortly after departing San Diego, Independence and her embarked air wing, Carrier Air Wing 14, successfully completed a battle group exercise in the Hawaiian operating area. The evaluation was conducted by Commander 3rd Fleet and was a 60-hour-long exercise with the purpose of determining Battle Group Delta's combat readiness prior to forward deployment to the Western Pacific. After completion of the evaluation, the Independence pulled into Pearl Harbor, Hawaii for a 2-day visit. During this time, most crew members had the opportunity to enjoy a short visit to the beaches of Hawaii and see some of the culture. On July 12th, the ship in-chopped into the 7th Fleet operating area. During the next several days, Commander Task Force 70 tasked the ship with completing several exercises. Captain Robert L. Ellis, Jr. relieved Captain Thomas S. Slater as commanding officer of the Independence in a ceremony held on board while at sea in transit to the Philippines.
Well, this is it. Thank you, shipmates, for serving me so well and so faithfully. I wish each and every one of you the best of everything good. My relief, Captain Ellis, is a superb naval officer. I've known him for a long time. Please serve him as well as you have served me. I relieve you, sir. As I've walked the ship these last 9 days, meeting many of you, I've been extremely impressed with the enthusiasm, pride, friendliness, and professionalism I have seen displayed in every department and squadron on this ship. I feel very honored and proud to be your commanding officer. My principal goals for this deployment are threefold. First is to bring everyone home safely. Second, that in partnership with CAG 14 to be the most capable and tactically proficient ship air wing team in the fleet. And third, for this crew to be the kind of ambassadors abroad that bring credit and honor to our country, our Navy, and this ship. Safe, professional, courteous, and can-do is what I've seen and what I will continue to demand.
The ship pulled into Subic Bay, Philippines on July 19th. During the 4-day port call, the crew had the opportunity to get out and witness the many sights and sounds of the Philippines. On July 28th, two aviators, Lieutenant Commanders Jerry K. Mines and Arthur C. Braun of VA-196, were killed when their A-6 intruder crashed during a routine training mission. A memorial service was held in the hangar bay for these men.
Jeff and Chris were great Americans, outstanding examples of the thousands of young men in the Navy who are prepared to willingly risk their lives and to pay the ultimate price to preserve our American way of life. Their contribution to this country was as important as that made by any sailor, soldier, or Marine at any time during our country's history.
During the transit to Diego Garcia, the ship crossed the equator, and the traditional crossing the line ceremony was held.
Captain Ellis, your officers and men, not numbered among the faithful, shall be loyal subjects of our realm and fitter men to handle your ship before another sun has set. We have given to the hands of our emissary, the Honorable Davy Jones, subpoenas which he will deliver to the pollywogs among your officers and men. Fair trials will be given to all in accordance with the immoral custom of our realm, and swift and impartial punishment melt out to all your guilty wogs. Down under my hand and sealed this day, 31 July 1990. All wogs beware.
August 2nd, while anticipating a stop at Diego Garcia, the Independence received orders to immediately proceed to the North Arabian Sea. Iraq had invaded Kuwait, and Freedom's flagship was to be our nation's first show of force in the region. Once on station in the Gulf of Oman, the ship conducted daily and nightly flight operations in support of Operation Desert Shield.
USS Independence.
USS Independence.
USS Independence. The U.S. Navy has 8 ships in the Persian Gulf. The Pentagon today ordered the aircraft carrier Independence and 6 support ships to move closer from their present station in the Indian Ocean.
On August 13th, the ship received its first media embark. Dan Rather was probably the biggest name to visit the ship. Each time a media group visited the ship, a press conference was held on board with Commander Carrier Group 1 Rear Admiral Jerry Unruh, Independence Commanding Officer Captain Robert Ellis Jr., Commander of Destroyer Squadron 23 Captain Bill Schmidt, and Commander Carrier Air Wing 14 Captain Jay Akers. Here's just a sampling of the many stories filed about Indy's battle group.
U.S. troop strength builds even more in Saudi Arabia. Continuing concern for Americans trapped in Iraq and Kuwait. And the blockade of Iraq enforced by U.S. naval power. This is the CBS TV News. Dan Rather reporting tonight from aboard the carrier USS Independence just outside the Straits of Hormuz. Good evening. We'll tell you in a moment exactly what's happening on this carrier, which is one of the hubs of President Bush's strategy in and around the Persian Gulf. First, let's pick off some of the developments of the last 24 to 48 hours. President Bush will interrupt his main vacation earlier than planned to return to Washington tomorrow for Gulf and budget talks. Bush aides say the United States will enforce an economic embargo against Iraq on everything but medicine to pinch what they call the Iraqi war machine. Britain and Australia said today their warships would join the U.S. interdiction effort. But France balked, saying that would make it a, quote, co-belligerent. The U.S. Defense Department said a 4th American carrier will set sail for the Gulf next week. Saudi Arabia reportedly turned away an Iraqi tanker trying to load oil at the Red Sea terminal of Iraq's last working pipeline. Israel charged that Jordan is helping Iraq beat the embargo by allowing rigs to enter through the Jordanian Red Sea port of Aqaba. Now, about what's happening here on the USS Independence. The Independence is 80,000 tons of U.S. fighting ships and humanity. 1,000 feet of runway. Built in the 1950s, it is a lot older than many who now are here to serve on it. You know, from keel to mast top, this carrier is about 25 stories high. But remember, there are about 5,000 people on this ship. It is literally a floating city. A key part of this floating city, the 60 to 70 aircraft, including these A-6s, F-14s, and F-18s, and the men who must maintain and fly them. They talk among themselves about how no matter how tough things are, they thank God their feet aren't in the sand. They talk about their planes, like the F-18 Hornet. They nicknamed the Hornet from hell. Many of these men are here on their first deployment.
Everybody, I'm sure, is a little bit nervous, maybe a little afraid. If you're not, there's something wrong with you.
The pilots have a saying, speed is life. 4 hours of F-14 Tomcat flying time from here to Baghdad and back. All say they're ready. We've been asked not to give their names.
We're ready to put it on the line if that's what the big man calls for.
Because many of these planes are attack aircraft, now armed and battle-ready, there are fewer training exercises permitted than many of the pilots would like. The biggest enemy right now, high heat and humidity. But that is not the greatest fear.
When we asked the Admiral here on the USS Independence what worried him most, he paused as if thinking, well, a lot of things worry me, but then he said, I guess what worries us all most is the unpredictability of the possibility of somebody using poison gas.
The Iraqis have chemical weapons, and that certainly is something that we are very concerned about, as are all the forces. They have shown a propensity to use them in the past against the Iranians, and that would probably be our most concern.
Security is a general concern here, of course. We can tell you we're just outside the Straits of Hormuz. Exactly where, we don't know, and wouldn't be allowed to say if we did.
This we can tell you. Morale on this ship is extremely high. Flight deck to the very bottommost deck.
I'm trained, and I'm ready to do it.
Have you been sleeping all right lately?
I've been sleeping just fine, Mr. Radis. In fact, almost too well.
Good-natured joking aside, the Independence hums with constant motion and mission. The job doesn't end at nightfall. Amid the tremendous heat and humidity, the watching and waiting, and the thunder on the deck.
Never been aboard an aircraft carrier, it's a never-to-be-forgotten experience. In fact, no matter how many times you come aboard, each time you're struck by the tremendous power and strength that a carrier not only embodies, but actually has, but also its vulnerability. This is particularly true when you get below deck.
The heart of the Independence. This is what makes the Navy go. 24 hours a day, thousands of men constantly checking, making sure everything is shipshape. In the middle of the night, one of the young men got out his home video camera so we could tell their story. Just below the flight deck, men work all night under a dim, eerie light. But these sailors wanted to show off their F-18 Hornets. The mechanics here don't get the Top Gun glory, just the satisfaction of making a multi-million-dollar machine work perfectly every time, as it must. They are young, but highly trained and proud of what they're doing. But the men who really pay the price are down below.
This is 8 decks below the flight deck. This is the guts of the Navy. Tom Cruise doesn't make movies about this place.
Here in the boiler room, young men work in 7-hour shifts. It's 110 degrees down here right now, and the noise is deafening. These men keep the engines of the giant Independence turning. Up on the wall, poison gas masks. A constant reminder of the danger they can face at any moment. But the men seem ready, even though they'll probably never see the enemy.
You try to put it back as far back in your mind as you can in order to get the job done, or what we have to do, and hopefully somebody's watching over us.
Here on the Independence, the majority of sailors are between 18 and 22 years old. But they're growing up fast, and they want everyone back home to know that they're fine. And they all send this message.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
What these men want most is not to be forgotten. What means more than anything is mail from home. So if you know someone on the Independence, drop him a line.
And that's part of our world tonight. Dan Rather for the CBS-TV News, reporting from the carrier USS Independence just outside the Straits of Hormuz. Our thanks to the U.S. Navy for making this on-scene broadcast possible. From the Independence, good night.
carrier USS Independence. Mark Dolmetsch is on board and reports on its combat readiness.
The aircraft carrier Independence is on station in the Persian Gulf. The centerpiece of Battle Group Delta has been launching its jet fighter planes and bombers for more than a week now, looking for any signs of Iraqi movement south of Kuwait. When the decision was made at the White House that the U.S. would not allow Saddam Hussein's Iraqi troops to continue rolling through Kuwait and on to the oil fields of Saudi Arabia, it was the aircraft carrier that provided the initial fifth to warn off any further Iraqi movement. The USS Independence was on station in the Gulf 4.5 days after getting its orders. Immediately, pilots and crew members began establishing a routine of reconnaissance flight patterns over the Gulf waters. Waters that in the past few decades have been shared by crude oil tankers and warships on several occasions. The Independence is proud of the fact that it can launch fighters into the sky just 5 minutes after they get a call to scramble. There is at least one pilot sitting in his F-14 Tomcat, fully armed with air-to-air missiles, prepared to be shot off the deck in a matter of minutes. He is there, ready for whatever may come right now. The flight deck, when the fighters are being launched or recovered, is not for the timid or faint of heart. The energy level is running at maximum. Every man out there must pay absolute attention to his particular job. There is no room for mistakes. And who does the job? 18, 19-year-olds mostly, many not long out of high school. And in the cockpit, the newer pilots are only a few years older, 24, 25 years old. But they are surely among the most confident young men to be found anywhere in the world. They fly every day off the Independence, honing skills learned through constant testing and practice. What is different today is that the missiles are armed, and there could easily be an Iraqi fighter pilot looking to make a kill. As one young fighter pilot put it, this is it. This is the world.
What I feel inside, to be honest, is a lot of excitement. The adrenaline's been flowing, and pretty fired up about this scenario out here. Naturally, we're not a bunch of warmongers out here, but I think we all understand the calculated risk, and we made pretty much a sober judgment of what's going on here, and we're ready to put it on the line if that's what the big man calls for.
There are only a handful of pilots on board the Independence that have flown in combat. They know the Iraqi Air Force is full of pilots who have flown combat during the long Iran-Iraq War. It doesn't bother them a bit.
It's almost like a sporting event, one would say, in that like a race car would be if we were to take two different type of race cars. You know, the Penske team perhaps maybe against another team, because it is machine against machine. It eventually comes down to man versus man, but when the way we think of it is, I need to kill that other machine.
Probably my biggest nightmare is just the thought I may not come back. Not that I'm afraid to do my job.
On a carrier, it makes no difference if the sun is shining or not, except in the Persian Gulf waters. Night in August may bring the temperature down to 95 degrees. Few lights are used out here. The most important ones are in the hands of the launch crew, signaling the pilot that they are hooked up to the launcher and ready to be airborne. There is no special hookup that allows the pilot to talk to the men on deck. And the entire process is so well rehearsed that it takes no longer to launch a squadron of Tomcats at night than it does on a sunny day. 14, 15-hour days under a broiling sun that can heat this deck to well over 100 degrees is just an average day out here right now. But from the skipper to flight operations commander to pilot to deckhand, they will all tell you it beats anything they have to take while in port. This is where they want to be. This is what they've been trained to do. What are their nightmares or fears? Are you afraid?
No, not really. I'm just doing what's best for my country.
Just worried. As long as I do what I'm supposed to do, everything's fine.
The Independence and her support ships are capable of staying on station in the Gulf indefinitely. They do not have to leave to replenish supplies or equipment. Anyone joining the ship from the outside world is besieged by sailors wanting to know what's happening. What's the latest from Washington or Baghdad or Saudi Arabia? Shipboard routine has taken over here, as it has to. But there is something special about it right now. the FA-18s and F-14s and A-6s might mean business the next time they go out. Mark Olney, CNN, aboard the USS Independence in the Gulf.
Over the weekend, if you were watching television, some of the most poignant scenes we all saw were surely those of young American soldiers and sailors leaving home for foreign parts. Among those already there are those on board the 80,000-ton carrier, the Independence, with its 70 warplanes, which arrived on station off the Arabian Peninsula last weekend. ABC's Mike Lee was on the Independence today.
Several times each day, Navy warplanes take off from the carrier headed for the Persian Gulf. The 30-ton jets are catapulted from the deck. The Navy says its aircraft are on defensive patrols only. Should fighting break out, U.S. fighter planes are equipped with electronically guided bombs and long-range missiles. Airborne, long-range radar spotter planes are looking out for Iraqi aircraft. From its position in the Gulf of Oman, the Independence sends several planes at a time into the Persian Gulf region. They are refueled in midair for prolonged flights over the Gulf. Their mission, according to officials, is to prevent Iraq from controlling international airspace and to respond if Iraqi pilots attack other Gulf states or U.S. ships. The Navy claims it is prepared for any Iraqi air attack.
Well, they have a very large Air Force, as you know. I don't want to get into specifics as to how good or bad they are, but I'll tell you we're better.
Yet, Americans might be facing Iraqi ground-to-air missiles and pilots who fought in the 8-year war with Iran. With the exception of a few Vietnam veterans, most of the Americans sent here to the Gulf region have never been to war. The Iraqis have.
You know, I might not be the most experienced person out here, but the American government seems to give me probably the best tools to work with, which gives me a lot of confidence.
For most Navy pilots, air warfare has always been a training exercise.
It's like if you're a football player, always getting to practice, but never get to play the game. Now we got a chance to play the game.
These Americans do not hate their potential Iraqi opponents. The contest, said one pilot, is our machines against theirs. Mike Lee, ABC News, outside the Strait of Hormuz.
In U.S. naval history, the name USS Independence is synonymous with where the action is. Financial Jeff Bryden is back and reports the San Diego-based aircraft carrier Independence is continuing the legacy of its 4 predecessors while supporting Operation Desert Shield.
She was in the South China Sea during the Vietnam conflict and off the coast of Lebanon in the early 80s. Now it's the Gulf of Oman and Operation Desert Shield. She's been on station keeping a watchful eye on global hotspots for nearly 30 years. USS Independence mission during these and other crises has been to project American power through air superiority. However, current tensions in the Middle East have the Indy playing a different role, enforcing the UN-sanctioned economic embargo.
We've been given a set of criteria by which we can intercept, interrogate, and give guidance to these ships, and possibly board if it appears necessary.
Jets blaze from the Indy's deck around the clock as the carrier meets the demand for surveillance with 2 sets of eyes. The planes scope out the situation from above, while below the flight deck, contacts are sorted out in the Combat Information Center. Meanwhile, the enlisted men wearing brightly colored jerseys keep the aircraft airborne as the planes launch and recover in the tightly choreographed fusion of man and machine.
It's just a constant thing during flight ops. People don't get any harder or easier at nighttime or daytime when they're on the flight deck. It's just the same tempo all the time.
For now, the crew of USS Independence and its air wing monitors the Persian Gulf from its station in the Gulf of Oman, ready at a moment's notice.
I think naval aviation will do is follow on what we've been doing for about 80 years, and that's extremely well.
Petty Officer Jeff Bryden, Washington.
American ships at sea stealing off Iraq and backing up American troops and their Arab partners on the ground in the Middle East.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Tonight, a major piece of that blockade, of course, is the USS Independence. That's the American aircraft carrier that's on duty tonight just outside the Persian Gulf, guarding those crucial Straits of Hormuz. NBC's Rick Davis is on board.
The carrier Independence, it and 7 other U.S. warships are now in the Sea of Oman at the entrance to the Gulf. The FA-18s and F-14s at this time carry missiles and cannons, not bombs. Their mission is to defend the warships in the Gulf, not to attack. The pilots are told not to initiate combat, only to respond to attacks on their planes and the ships. But the FA-18s could attack Iraqi tanks if there is a ground war, or go after Iraqi fighters if they try to stop a blockade. Their mission goes on 24 hours a day. One pilot described landing on a carrier deck like flying into a black hole until the last moment.
We're not a bunch of warmongers out here, but I think we all understand calculated risk, and we need pretty much a sober judgment of what's going on here and whether we're ready to put it on the line if that's what the big man calls for.
This pilot's wife expects a baby soon. He won't be there.
For my country, if I can make a difference, that makes all the difference in the world to me, and that my wife will understand that.
If Americans do face combat here, they could be confronted with a form of warfare not faced by U.S. servicemen since the First World War.
The Iraqis have chemical weapons, and that certainly is something that we are very concerned about, as are all the forces.
This is the suit the men on the ship will wear if there is a chemical attack. Today, these men just wanted to show the messages they wrote to the folks back home, that they know this is a dangerous place. And they may be in this territory for a long time. Rick Davis, NBC News, on the carrier Independence.
In the northern Arabian Sea, the USS Independence sails within striking distance of Iraq. The carrier and its battle group arrived here in early August, 3 days after the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. If war had broken out, the Independence and its 50 attack aircraft would have faced an Iraqi force hundreds of thousands strong. Today, the carrier has lots of company, dozens of other ships, and 250,000 troops in Saudi Arabia. But the U.S. is still outnumbered, forcing it to seek military superiority not through quantity, but quality.
Even though we're outnumbered at times, the fact that we have better weapons and better training is going to give us the edge in most scenarios. The type of weapons, the precision of which you can carry fewer of them, which means you send fewer airplanes in there to do the job, as compared to years ago when you just had to bomb entire areas because your weapons were so imprecise in what they hit.
Armed with computer-driven weapons and sophisticated communications and intelligence systems, the military hopes to score a quick knockout punch by destroying key Iraqi targets, should war come. Some of the carrier's pilots are getting ready for a mission.
Okay, guys, you ready for event 4 brief today? Yeah. All right. We'll proceed up through the corridor into the Gulf, into the Persian Gulf. All right, the target area, everybody's been up there before. All right, is right there on the coast of Saudi Arabia, and clear target area, and we'll go in there and run our target area tactics.
The pilots are at greatest risk. This morning, they'll be flying a practice mission near Kuwait. But in a war, they would be attacking Iraq's air defenses to open the way for other American planes. The difference between success and failure, between life and death, will likely be their new untried computer-driven weapons. The Pentagon has already spent hundreds of billions of dollars in what could be the biggest strategic gamble of the post-Cold War age, using high technology to maintain America's superpower status. The threat from Iraq's smart weapons isn't just against ships. U.S. warplanes will also be at risk from several varieties of anti-aircraft missiles based in Iraq and Kuwait. To counter the threat, the U.S. will use these smart missiles called HARMs. They're designed to home in on a radar beam, ride the beam all the way down to a radar dish on the ground, and knock out the enemy's air defenses, at least in theory. In the Arabian Sea, no one on the USS Independence is taking the Iraqi threat lightly. Here, crew members stage a disaster drill to prepare for a hit by an Iraqi anti-ship missile. A fire detail rushes in to practice fighting what would likely be a raging fire. It would only take one Iraqi missile to wreak havoc on the ship. If U.S. fighter pilots can't knock out Iraq's air defenses, they can still try to jam the radar of incoming missiles with special electronic equipment on board their aircraft. It's smart weapon versus smart weapon, computer versus computer.
In addition to flying many missions from the Gulf of Oman, the Independence and Carrier Air Wing 14 and her battle group ships were involved in the interdiction of Iraqi merchant vessels. On September 26th, the Independence made naval history when she was ordered into the Arabian Gulf, becoming the first carrier in 16 years to actually enter Arabian Gulf waters. While operating inside the Gulf, General Norman Schwarzkopf, U.S. Think Sense, visited the ship and addressed the crew in the hangar bay.
I'm really proud to be here with you guys today. I don't know if you know it, but this is it's a very historical event. This is the first time in 16 years that we've had a carrier in the Persian Gulf. And when you consider the fact that we've got a carrier in here and you've got the battleship in here too, I'm sure this is the first time probably in the history of the Navy that we've had this much firepower up in the Gulf ever, and you all are part of that great day of history, and I'm just very happy to be here with you. I would also tell you that I was damn glad to see the Indy when it got here. As you know, we had to get force over here. We had to get over here very quickly. And we had a bunch of people really hanging out there. And if the enemy had decided to attack us any time shortly after we got here, we would have been in a lot of trouble. But I want to tell you, the minute the Indy got into the Gulf of Oman, an awful lot of us started breathing a lot better because we knew we had a hell of a lot of combat power here. We knew we had a hell of a lot of fighters, and we knew they were damn ready to do whatever job needed to be done to protect those troops on the ground. And that made us all, from the president right on down, feel a lot better about what we were doing over here. I guess I would just like to tell you that we don't know what's going on right now. The enemy's being awful cozy. We've got to be careful every day. We've got a lot of plans on a lot of things that we might do, and whatever the president calls on us to do, I know we're ready to do. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But the most important thing I can leave you all with, and I want you to clearly understand this, is first of all, I'm extremely proud. I'm very proud of each and every one of you and the role you're playing in serving your country today, and it's a real honor for me to be your commander-in-chief. But I think what's more important is your country's proud of you. The United States of America is extremely proud of each and every one of you, and every day I get literally hundreds of letters that come in to tell me just how proud all of America is of you. But what's even more important than that is the whole world is proud of you. The whole world is behind what we're doing over here. We're right. The world knows we're right. We're not going to let that son of a bitch Saddam Hussein get away with what he's done, and the world knows it. Now, I think we got a couple of minutes here, so if anybody's got a question, I'm allowed one question. Anybody got a question you want to ask me about what's going on or anything? When? Let me just put it this way. We'll go when the time comes for us to go, and there's no doubt in my mind that when that happens, we're going to kick his teeth in.
While on station, the ship had spent well over 100 straight days at sea. Keeping morale up was a constant priority. Mail call brought in precious letters and packages from loved ones at home, and the ship received thousands of boxes and letters from people all over the world who just wanted to show their support for Indy and CV-14. To give the crew a break from the normal routine, the ship anchored off the coast of Oman 4 times. During these anchor days, the crew had the opportunity to relax a bit. Another morale boost occurred when the Independence rendezvoused with the hospital ships USS Mercy and Comfort during their transit through the Arabian Gulf. To keep the crew informed of what was happening in the world, a daily newscast was broadcast on the ship's closed-circuit television system, KAOS-TV. In addition, fairly recent network newscasts and a few sporting events were flown in from Diego Garcia. When Independence's duty on station in the Gulf came to an end, a very, very welcome sight came alongside on the evening of November 1st. Indy was relieved by the USS Midway. Leaving the Gulf of Oman, transiting the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal, and the Straits of Malacca, the men of Indy and Carrier Air Wing 14 finally hit the island nation of Singapore November 11th for the first 4 days of liberty in a long, long time. In just 4 days, Indy went from Singapore to her next stop, Liberty Call, Hong Kong. 2 days after a 5-day stop at Hong Kong, Indy swung over to visit the Philippines at Subic Bay, November 26th, and took on supplies for the 2-week trip across the Pacific to Pearl Harbor, where the ship would make final preparations for the last leg of her voyage home. We also welcomed aboard some very special crew members. The Tigers came aboard in Pearl and joined their hosts on Freedom's flagship for the week-long trip to San Diego. This was a time for fathers and sons and other male guests to learn more about the often exciting and sometimes routine and very hard work, as well as some good times that make up the Navy adventure. Tigers experienced CV-62 and CV-14 up close and personal, and guests as well as hosts learned a little more about life at sea and each other. On December 20th, after almost 6 months away, Indy was home. A deployment came to an end that brought Indy into the international spotlight and saw men, the ship, and aircraft mesh into one of the most formidable forces in the world. A force of people, working the seas and air, working for what's right. Freedom.
USS Independence measures 1,070 feet in length, 252 feet wide at flight deck level, and has the height of a 25-story building from keel to mast top. Her flight deck area encompasses over 4 acres. Versatile and mobile, the Independence, with her embarked air wing, can provide great concentrations of power and deploy rapidly to exert continuous pressure on an enemy. Free from land-based restrictions and vulnerability, immobility, treaty agreements, and political shifts, she can provide this presence within mere miles of most of the troubled spots in the world. The captain directs the ship's activities from the bridge. From here, he exercises command, coordination, and control of all internal ship functions and tactical operations at sea. The officer of the deck on the bridge and the tactical action officer in the Combat Direction Center are the captain's principal agents for decision-making. These two men have an extremely high degree of accountability to the captain for all operations, a level of responsibility not often found in any other field of endeavor. While the bridge may be the brains of the ship, central control is its heart. Here is where the engineering officer supervises the 600 men in his department. They are responsible for the operation of the propulsion plant, which provides the electrical power, heat and air conditioning, distilled water, and liquid oxygen and nitrogen, as well as the power to push Indy through the water at better than 30 knots. The entire crew can be sustained for long periods at sea, since food, fuel, and other supplies can be replenished while underway. A radio and television station keeps the men entertained and informed of current events. Both offer 24 hours of programming. There's even an experimental satellite receiving dish on the ship, which can, depending on various circumstances, pull in live news and sporting events. The ship's public affairs staff also produces a daily television newscast and newspaper while the ship is at sea. The ship's recreational services department ensures that the two gymnasiums on board are kept up and open 24 hours a day while the ship is underway. In port, this department arranges bus transportation and sets up tours for the crew. While at sea for long periods of time, the health and spiritual requirements of the crew are provided for. Sick call is held daily, and the medical department can perform surgery in their well-equipped operating rooms. Complete dental facilities are also available, with 4 fully qualified dentists who practice both preventive and corrective dentistry. Religious services are held in various places throughout the ship, and there is a small chapel off one of the main passageways for private devotions. The main battery of the Independence is the Carrier Air Wing, composed of 9 squadrons which are ready to respond to any crisis or conflict. The squadrons fly 7 different types of aircraft, each designed for a specific mission. The Air Wing aboard Independence is there during all overseas deployments and for specific training cruises in waters near the United States. At all other times, it is based at home air stations located in various parts of the country. The combination of the Independence and her air wing covers the entire spectrum of air power. Together, they create a package which can provide a highly mobile force for defense throughout the world. The Independence is, in effect, a completely equipped mobile air base, capable of changing her position by hundreds of miles in a single day. She can be used alternatively or simultaneously against submarines and their bases, aircraft and their airfields, for the support of amphibious or vertical assault landings, and in close or general support of land operations. Although designed for war, the Independence, known as Freedom's flagship, now stands ready to maintain the peace.
Thank you.